Hey, what's up guys, DarkArmedDuelist, and today we're doing a Mutant deck profile. So I'm really excited this you guys because with E-Telly back at 3, this deck is absolutely insane to be able to play with, and we even got a new support card out of Battle of Chaos, which helps out this deck a lot. I'm really excited to show you guys all the cards I'm playing in this deck, so without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can come part of Notification Squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards, like getting your name description in every single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your Patreon, along with test hands. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're playing 3 copies of Myutant, which is the new card that we got out of Battle of Chaos. This card is a really good 3-of in the deck that has the ability that if you control a Mutant card, you can special summon this card from your hand, and you can tribute this card to banish a Mutant card from your hand or deck to special summon one monster from your hand or deck based on the banished card, but you lose life points equal to the monster that you summon off this card's effect. It has the ability to, if you banish a monster, you special summon Mutant Beast. If you banish a spell, you special summon Mutant Mist. And if you banish a trap, you special summon Mutant Arsenal, which is a very good effect to get any of our 3 boss monsters on the field. We then play 3 copies of Mutant MO5. Mutant MO5 is a really good card because when this card is normal or special summon, you can add a mutant monster from your deck to your hand, except another copy of MO5. You contribute this card to banish one card from your hand or face or field to special summon one monster from your hand or deck based on the banished card. If it's a monster, it's Mutant Beast. If it's a spell, Mutant Mist. If it's a trap, Mutant Arsenal. We then play 3 copies of ST46. ST46 is a great 3-of as well. It's basically the exact same card as MO5, but when this card is normal or special summoned, you get to add a mutant spell or trap from your deck to your hand. But it shares that ability that you tribute this card and banish one card from your hand or face on your side of the field to special summon a monster from your hand or deck based on the banished card, which is a very good effect to be able to just get those searches and get a monster on the field. We then play 2 copies of Mutant Beast, which is pretty much the best of the 3 of the monsters, and it's super easy to summon as well. It has the ability that cannot be special summoned except with the card effect of a mutant card, and your opponent cannot target this card with monster effects. It also has the ability you can only use each of the following effects this card once per turn, that when your opponent activates a spell or effect, quick effect, you can banish one card from your hand or field to negate the activation, and if you do, banish that card, which is a very good effect if you have basically a walking spell negation in this monster. It also has the ability that if this card in its owner's possession is destroyed by an opponent's card, then you can target one of your banished mutant traps and add it back to your hand. We then play a single copy of Mutant Mist. Mutant Mist is a really good 1-of in here that can't be special summoned except with a mutant card effect, and your opponent can't target this card with spell effects. And you can only use each of the following effects this card once per turn, that when an opponent activates a trap or effect, quick effect, you can banish a card from your hand or field to be able to draw 2 cards. And if this card in its owner's possession is destroyed by an opponent's card, then you can target one of your banished mutant monsters and add it back to your hand. We then play a single copy of Mutant Arsenal. Mutant Arsenal is a really good 1-of as well. You really just need 1 copy of Mist and 1 copy of Arsenal, and it has the ability can't be special summoned except by the effect of a mutant card. Your opponent cannot target this card with trap effects, and you can only use each of the following effects this card once per turn, that when an opponent activates a monster effect, quick effect, you can banish 1 card from your hand or field and then target 1 monster on the field and banish it. If this card in its owner's possession is destroyed by an opponent's card, then you can target one of your banished mutant spells and add it back to the hand, which is a really good effect to be able to constantly be recovering your mutant cards with all 3 of these boss monsters. We then play 3 copies of Dimensional Shifter. Dimensional Shifter is really good because basically, if you have no cards in the grave, you can quick effect, send this card from your hand to the grave, and until the end of the next turn, any card sent to the graveyard is banished, which can pretty much shut down an opponent's entire turn, which is very good for us because this deck is pretty much unaffected by being banished. So, that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing a single copy of Called by the Grave. Called by the Grave is in here because this card is a really good card to stop your opponent from hand trapping you, especially when a lot of your cards can tribute themselves and then banish an additional card to be able to summon out a monster from the deck. You kind of want to protect that with your copies of Called by the Grave. We play a single copy of Harpy's Feather Duster because you don't want to deal with back row in this deck, and it's super helpful to be able to just activate this card and deal with your opponent's entire backboard. We then play 2 copies of Mutant Fusion. Mutant Fusion is a really good 2 two of in this deck because it lets you fusion summon a mutant fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing fusion materials listed on it from your hand or field. And if your opponent has activated a card or effect this turn, you can also use one monster each from your deck or graveyard as fusion material, which helps out a lot in this deck to be able to use monsters from your deck or graveyard as fusion materials. We then play 2 copies of Mutant Evolution Lab. Mutant Evolution Lab is a good 2 of in here. I did consider playing it at 3, but 2 just seemed to work really nice with ST46, and it has the ability that when this card is activated, you can special summon one of your level 4 or lower mutant monsters from your hand or that is banished. And mutant monsters that you control gain 100 attack for each of your banished mutant cards with different names. And once per turn during the main phase, you can place a mutant monster from your hand on the bottom of the deck, and if you do, draw a card, which helps out a lot if you draw into any of your high level mutant monsters, because you usually want them in the deck. We then play 3 copies of E-Telly. E-Telly is really good in this deck because it helps you basically get an additional monster on your side of the field and not be so reliant on the normal summon, which is very, very helpful for this deck. We then play 3 copies of Pot of Extravagance. Pot of Extravagance is insanely powerful in this deck because it basically gives you a draw 2. You don't really need anything in the extra deck, so you can use this card in the deck. You basically just play a bunch of toolbox stuff in the extra deck, so this card comes in very handy to let you draw 2 cards. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Mutant Cry. Mutant Cry is really good in this deck. This card has the ability that during the main phase, you can fusion summon one mutant fusion monster from your extra deck by shuffling the fusion materials listed on it into the deck from among cards on the field or in the graveyard or that are face-up banished, which is a very good effect to be able to give you a little bit of recovery for your cards while also giving you an insanely powerful boss monster. We then play 3 copies of Mutant Expansion. This card is a really good 3 of in this deck as well, because this card has the ability that when you activate this card, you can take a level 4 or lower mutant monster from your deck and either add it to your hand or special summon it. And if a level 8 or higher mutant monsters you control would be destroyed by card effect, you can banish this card that you control instead, giving you that added bit of protection that this deck needs. We then play 3 copies of There Can Be Only One. This card is insanely powerful in this deck because this deck plays all sorts of different types of monsters, and this card basically shuts down the board where each player can only control one monster of each type, which is kind of neat. For example, the only thing that really hurts this deck is when you have multiple psychics on the field and you have this card, because it's going to make you get rid of those psychic monsters. But usually you're going to summon out one to your side of the field, get rid of it off the field, summon out one of the big boss monsters, and then go for another one next turn or later on in that turn after the one that's on the field has left the field. We then play 3 copies of Solemn Strike. Solemn Strike is basically here because when a monster effect, or when an opponent would special summon or activate a monster effect, you can pay 1500 to negate the summon or activation and destroy that card, which is very good for this deck. And you want to play this deck with a well-rounded amount of spells, traps, and monsters, so you can summon out any of your boss monsters. And this is one of the best trap cards in the entire game, especially being a counter trap. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Mutant Ultimus. Keep in mind, as we go through the extra deck, it is a Pot of Extravagance build, so you can play just about anything that you want in here, or bump up some of the cards from 1 to 3 if you find that you use one card more than the others. But this card is really good because it takes 3 level 8 or higher mutant monsters to summon this card, which is actually kind of easy in this deck to be able to pull off, and it has the ability that when a card or effect is activated, quick effect, you can banish a mutant card from your hand, graveyard, or face up from your field of this same type. Monster, spell, or trap is the activated card, and negate the activation if you do banish that card. And if this fusion summon card you control is destroyed by an opponent's card, then you can add up to 3 banished mutant cards, one of each of a monster, spell, and trap, to your hand, which is an insanely powerful fact that this 3500 attack point monster is basically an invoked Makaba, and it's just absolutely insane. We then play 3 copies of Mutant Synthesis. Mutant Synthesis is a great 3 of as well. You're going to be summoning this card a lot in this deck. This is probably the card that I summoned the most out of the extract, and it has the ability, if this card is fusion summoned, you can target one card on the field and destroy it. And when your opponent activates a card or effect, quick effect, you can activate this effect that for the rest of the turn, this face-up card is unaffected by the effects of the opponent's cards of the same type of monster, spell, or trap as that card. And if this fusion summon card that you control is destroyed by an opponent's card, then you can add one of your banished mutant cards to your hand, which is a pretty good effect to be able to add the exact card that you need from your deck to or from your banished pile to your hand, and basically just make this card immune to something that your opponent's playing. We then play a single copy of Blackluster Soldier, Soldier of Chaos. This card is super interesting to summon in this deck and very easy. It's an insanely powerful boss monster that if you put a level 7 or higher monster into this card, it gets really, really nuts because it can't be targeted or destroyed by our opponent's card effects, which is really, really good for this card. And when it destroys an opponent's monster by battle, it gains 1500 attack and then make a second attack during the same turn or banish a card you can pick from those 3 effects, which is pretty good for this card, but you can only pick one of those effects per turn. We then play a single copy of Unicorn to spin stuff, Phoenix to pop spells and traps, and Cross Sheep because we do go into a lot of different fusion plays in this deck. This card is really good because if you fusion summon, you get to target one of your level 4 or lower monsters in the graveyard and special summon it back to your side of the field, which can come up in this deck every so often. One copy of Anaconda for Mutant Fusion. This card is really, really good in the deck to be able to just pay that 2000 and send Mutant Fusion from the deck to the graveyard. 2 copies of Alamirage just in case our mutant monsters get Ash Blossomed and there can be only one face on the field. We can get rid of them with this card, which is kind of neat to be able to go in for. We play a single copy of Dingirsu. Dingirsu is really, really good for this deck because basically you make this card and then attack, send a card to the graveyard, and then attack with this card, and then go into Zeus during main 2, which is really, really nice. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. It's a really fun deck to be able to play around with. I really love playing with mutants because they're just such a good deck. Like, it's a really good deck to play with, and being able to make that 3500 attack point ultimate is just absolutely crazy. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.